Have you guys ever decided on creating your own video game or using some of your coding skills? I don't know if anybody's learning coding, but it's always hard to find a project that you want to immerse yourself on. Today, I want to introduce you to Godot, a game developing software that is free to install, and there's plenty of tutorials out there for 2D and 3D. Today, we're going to be talking about the process of a game that I've been developing on their 2D platform. I'm a novice, so brand new to this, but enjoy. I'm going to spare you all the boring details and fast forward this, but I already imported the player sprite. Here is a player sprite with a collision shape that has a simple code just to let him move right, left, up, and down. That's mapped to the buttons on the keyboard. Here we got 4 different sprites that act as a walking animation. So whenever he moves a certain direction, these sprites repeat themselves. So these sprites are mapped to a button press and then the animation plays. Now what we're doing here is we're getting a tile set, which is basically your map design. So we're importing the floor tile, and this was all given to me ahead of time, and you can find multiple files on these tile sets. But there's a bunch of different ones. I kind of just followed the Godot course and just use pretty much what they did with a little bit of personal flair to it. All right, so here we're actually going to create the floor itself. So we're using like a grassy terrain at first. As you can see, there's different ones. There's like a snow one, there's like more of a dirt one, a muddy one, but we're gonna use something more along the lines of grass, right? We want to be outdoors in the wilderness. With that being said, you can actually hire a probability rate. Right now it's all set to 1, but you can give it a higher probability if it's more of a tile that you want to use more than the others, which is pretty cool. So I actually ran into a little situation here where my player wasn't moving around. He was just kind of moving in the same spot. You know, the animation was triggering and the console was fine and the button mapping was all good. But for some reason, I just was not moving around the map. And then I checked the code, and these indentations basically make it a child under whatever it's under. So that's why this particular function was working under a parent one, you know, making it its own parent command. Then we were good to go. So now that we have our grass, we want to add a little bit of a path, a little bit of a dirt road, kind of give it a different kind of color feel, so you're not just walking on a blank field. So here we're creating a dirt road, and as you can see, it kind of looks all pixelated and blocky, and no dirt road really looks like that. I know this is a 2D game, but you know, we have different functionalities to work that out. So we're actually creating a terrain set, which is basically like a tile set, but you're kind of mapping the terrain that you want and giving it more of a natural feel instead of just like a blocky look, like how it looks like now. So this tile set that I downloaded actually had multiple different options, and this is all covered in the training. Probably if you're doing it by yourself, it might be a little extra, a little harder to know exactly which ones will be matched to others. But here we're doing a match set, which basically whenever you're using a specific tile and then you attach another tile to it, it registers it and gives it like that certain blend. You know, it kind of feathers it into the next tile instead of being all blocky and kind of like pixely like how it looks like now. So here we're going more granular with it. We're doing more than just match set. We're doing match corners and sides. So it's just getting more detailed, more defined in the marrying of them two. And you'll see this pretty soon here. It's actually pretty cool. This game could look pretty, not realistic obviously, but it could be blended into a, you know, pretty decent looking game. And the result is, so I did all my matching. You can see the pairs here, and then now you can just go over them and just completely just hold on to your mouse and just make it look a little bit more of a natural terrain. You see how they kind of blend into each other instead of looking all pixelated and blocky. Now we're going ahead and creating our third layer, which is basically your object layer. So first we did the grass, second we did the terrain, third we're doing the object. Now with this object layer, we want to do something a little different, where we're creating collision shapes with the object. That way we're not just gonna run through the object. So we're pasting our objects wherever we want. You know, I chose a very foresty feel, but like I mentioned before, we want to give it a collision shape. That way we're not running through it. So I didn't add the collision shape to this one yet, but I did do it to the trees. But let me show you exactly how that looks, giving it a collision shape. So we're gonna go into the actual object itself, and we're gonna go in the physics of the object, and we're gonna basically give it these pinpoints. That way we give it a shape that whenever we run into it, that shape is basically stopping us, because I have a collision and they have a collision. Thanks for watching that. Part 2 coming soon.